Can you talk a little bit about the game of futsal and how it helped Brazilians create some of the most talented players in the world? Because that was one of my favorite parts of the book, is understanding that aspect, how a totally different sport from soccer actually helped develop better soccer players.
Right. It's so cool. I mean, it's so counterintuitive. It actually starts with a story about a guy who wanted to investigate that question, like, why is Brazil so great at soccer? Because they are. They've produced a lot more top world soccer players than other nations. And, the normal answer to that question is, well, Brazil loves soccer and it's warm and they play there all the time. But when you think more deeply about that question, there's a lot of other countries that are warm that aren't nearly as good, that love soccer but aren't nearly as good. And Brazil wasn't always good. Like, until the 50s, they were beaten by the beach nation of Hungary.
Right.
So, they became good. So when you go there and go to Brazil, as I did, you find everybody playing this crazy little game called Futebol de Salão, soccer in the room. And it's like soccer if you put soccer in a phone booth and fed it amphetamines. I mean, it's super fast, basketball court size, small ball that's hard to control, smaller center of gravity, small goals, 5-on-5. So you have to recognize what's happening much, much earlier. Like in the grass game, there's all this space.
Right, you have so much time.
But here you're under constant pressure, so perceptually you have to understand what's happening. You touch the ball 600% more.
Yeah.
It's basically the difference between playing hockey full ice and playing it in a cross ice, right?
Exactly, yeah.
You get way more touches under way more pressure. And Brazilian, most of them, they only play that game until they're about 12. So they spend thousands of hours in that space.
Yeah.
In a space where they're constantly on the edge of their ability with a small ball, having to read and react faster. And, there's been teams that have taken that idea and applied it to their own training and have had amazing success because it makes you spend time in what I would call the deep practice zone.
Right.
Where you're not just sort of practicing, you're deeply practicing, meaning you're reaching. You're on the edge of your ability, you're uncomfortable, it's hard to hang out there because you're like making mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely.
It feels really bad. But that's the space where you learn, because that mistake that you make helps you get to the right answer.
Right.
Like, that mistake is a piece of information you can use to make the right move next time.
That's right.
Or you can create practices, like, it's almost like practice should be a mistake-generating machine.
Yes.
Yeah. Not where you're flailing and struggling, but where you're on the edge of your ability, where you're able to make it like half the time or 60 or 70% of the time, but you're failing a significant percentage.
Yeah.
That's what futsal is. And there's been a lot of great stories of little teams that have just gone to training that way, and they take those skills outside and they kick butt.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about in your book, like you just said, about being error-focused when you're training and about trying to find that sweet spot on the edge of your ability where you're struggling, you're failing, and then you're correcting. So I align myself, I'm an ice hockey player, and I found the sport of floorball to be similar to what I think is the futsal of soccer. Is I think the floorball is that for hockey. Where they have a very small ball. It's about the size of a wiffle ball. It's a reinforced wiffle ball, and the sticks are very, very light, and you're playing 5-on-5 in a very condensed zone, like you were saying in ice hockey. If you kind of played width to width, how it would be smaller. And what I found in playing a game like that is the same thing kind of as futsal, is you're constantly under pressure. You're constantly having to make plays really quickly. You don't have nearly enough or as much space as you would on the ice. And at the same time, the ball is so light that every single touch you put on the ball has to be a lot more fine-tuned. So do you think there would be some merit to the game of floorball for helping develop ice hockey players?
Absolutely. It makes perfect sense, because think about what your brain's doing in those positions. It's having to read and react. It's trying to create that fine edge to be able to feel in your fingers what's going on with the puck and be able to control it. And in every sport or endeavor, there is that same pattern of shrinking the space. Shrink the space, force the reaction. When you look at how Bayern Munich trains the soccer team. When you look at how good infields train in baseball, you see the same thing of shrinking the space to force reaction to happen more quickly. And it makes absolutely perfect sense to me that would be a wonderful way to spend time in the deep practice zone and to add some ability.